Hey, Dr. Mike here. How does Pycnogenol, a vascular health supplement, relate to hair loss? Stick around to find out with our guest, Dr. Fred Pescatore.
You're listening to Live Foreverish, a show dedicated to helping you live just a little longer. Here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Crystal Gossard.
All right, welcome to the show. Dr. Crystal, my co-host.
Yes.
Always nice to have you.
Hello.
Yeah, so today's show is about Pycnogenol, and it's kind of becoming a superstar ingredient in the supplement world. Our guest, Dr. Fred Pescatore, he's a New York City physician and internist. He specializes in nutritional medicine. He's a globally renowned healthy living expert and best-selling author of the Hamptons Diet, the A-List Diet, and it goes on and on. He's done a bunch of work with the pine bark extract Pycnogenol, right, over the past 10 years. And he also has a really good supplement book, The Allergy and Asthma Cure. Dr. Pescatore, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, you two. Pleasure.
Great to have you back. You were on. We just realized, it's been like 2 years.
Yes, 2021.
Yeah, January 2021. I don't even know if you remember that.
Being on until I looked at the link and then remembered being on.
Gotcha. Well, back then we talked about more of the anti-aging benefits, right, that research is now showing for Pycnogenol. It does seem like more and more research is coming out, not just for anti-aging, but all kinds of body systems, right?
Right. Well, I pulled up some information. I have data.
Okay.
And Dr. Pescatore, tell me if you were aware. I did a PubMed search this morning, typed in Pycnogenol into the search box, 527 search results. And then I narrowed it down. I said, whoa, that's a lot. Let's see how many studies can I find with Pycnogenol in the title. 321.
Okay.
So when we talk about a superstar nutrient, that kind of puts it into perspective.
Yeah. Dr. Pescatore, it is something to talk about when people are willing to spend money doing research on something. So let's, how about, you're really seen as one of the experts here with Pycnogenol. Give the audience just kind of your elevator pitch definition of Pycnogenol and what it can do for us.
Well, Pycnogenol it's an antioxidant. It comes from a French Maritime pine bark, and it works in 4 different ways. It's an antioxidant. It's an anti-inflammatory. It binds to collagen and elastin in the skin, and it also aids in the production of endothelial nitric oxide. So that's why, since it has so many different ways of working in the body, that's why the company that owns the patent to Pycnogenol has been able to do so much research and spend so much money on research, which very few nutritional supplement ingredients do. And that's why I kind of really like this one, because it says they know what it does. They do studies that tell you what it does. And Dr. Crystal, just going a little further on what you said, in those studies, there's probably been over 12,000 patients enrolled in those studies. So it's really quite vast.
Well tested.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. And as you mentioned, I would just echo that. Listeners, we need funding for nutritional research. And so it is a myth. And I think this dispels that myth that the nutrition world, dietary ingredients, there's no research.
Yeah. That's getting harder and harder to support by the conventional side. Well, how did you? I think you shared this with us the last time you were here, but just to remind us, what really got you started on Pycnogenol and wanting to be a champion of its use?
Well, I think I first heard about it. I was thinking about this morning, probably close to 30 years ago. Sort of at the beginning of my career, maybe 25 years ago. And because back then, as a doctor out of training, you're looking for science. You're looking for the same model you had in conventional medicine. So what can support what I do? Why do I say what I recommend to people? That sort of thing. And it's those studies. It's those study after study that the company was willing to support, that the company itself was willing to fund. That to me said a lot. That to me said that they really want to know what this does, and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. So that's really what got me going on this. So it's been a long ride with them, and it's just remarkable to see how many different things that they can do research on and that it works. It's kind of exciting.
Yes, and I'm excited. I don't know about Dr. Mike, but I'm excited about a new study with pycnogenol that shows that pycnogenol supports hair density in menopausal women.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we said, hey, we need to get Dr. Pescatore back.
I love it because postmenopausal hair thinning, hair loss in women, it's pretty prevalent, and we don't really talk about women and hair loss that much, right?
Yeah.
So to see this study was pretty exciting. Dr. Pescatore, can you tell us a little bit more about just how the study came to be and how it was set up?
Sure. Even though we don't talk a lot about it, I, as an internist, see it all the time. Like, women are very, very concerned about their hair loss. Guys, we shave it off, whatever. We don't really care. But, the society has such a different standard for women that they don't have that luxury. So, you have to think about it. I think by 2025, there's going to be 1 billion women in menopause. 1 billion people on this planet will be in menopause.
Wow.
In just a couple of years. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a lot of hair loss, and people are going to be looking for that. So I think that's sort of where the company said, hey, we do have a circulatory. We know that it does something for the circulation, working on the collagen and elastin. So we need good circulation to get to the scalp in order to supply the oxygen necessary for the hair follicles to stay in place, right? That was one thought. And then the other thought was to see, will it increase hair density on its own? So that's how the study came about. So and it wasn't a big dose of pycnogenol. It was 50 milligrams 3 times a day, or 150 milligrams total, all day long. And it was remarkable what they were able to find. I mean, that it was able to increase hair density. It was able to increase, sort of blood flow to the scalp and things like that. So really, it set out to do it, and it worked. I mean, it increased hair density by 30% after just 2 months of taking the supplementation. I think that's pretty remarkable. I mean, I would take 30% hair density increase.
Sign me up.
Actually, I think it is. I mean, you think about it, it may not sound like a big number, but if you're that person and you're looking in the mirror, you'll see that. That's a positive thing. You'll see a positive change. And that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot. I don't know. I think that's kind of a lot.
Well, I'll tell you from someone soon to be in menopause, every little bit, every strand matters. When you wash your hair and you're seeing the hair go down the drain, every little bit matters. And we do know that menopause finally is getting the shine that it deserves. It's trending now. You're seeing it all over the headlines, and it's great to kind of see research on something as simple that for some people it may not mean a lot, but it means a lot to many people. And so we're also seeing pycnogenol studied for other menopausal related concerns as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, people think about hair loss as sort of something vain, but it's really, it's a way people look at themselves. And I could look at a woman sitting across from my desk and she'll say, it's coming out by the brush loads, and she's got so much hair, but it's so important to maintain that hair density and hair volume. So I think that's, before we move on to what other people consider more of the menopausal symptoms, the hot flashes, the not being able to sleep, the dry skin. There's a lot more menopausal things that happen. And perimenopause, it usually starts with women in their 40s, right? With perimenopausal symptoms happening and all of that. So this was a study, I believe, done, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 2012, to improve menopausal signs and symptoms. And again, very little low dose of pycnogenol, 50 milligrams only twice a day in this one. And after just 8 weeks, Perimenopausal signs and symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, irregular periods, loss of libido, vaginal dryness, all decreased. All of those symptoms decreased after 8 weeks of taking something super safe, like a nutritional supplement, like French Maritime pine bark extract, Pycnogenol. Really kind of cool, I think.
Yeah. And so I'm glad you brought up the safety. So on all these studies, it's well tolerated, right? People aren't. It's pretty easy to take. Yeah.
Super well tolerated. I think the only other the only thing is probably GI upset, and I think a lot of people get GI upset with nutritional supplements, on and off. I think we all get that. When we take our supplements. But the other thing to think about in perimenopause and menopause, and maybe a lot of women don't realize this, is that their cardiovascular risk goes up. Just like it increases. It equates to a male at the same age risk factor for heart disease at around menopausal time. So I think that's to keep in mind as well, because in a different study, I don't know if you want to talk about this other study too, Pycnogenol has helped to normalize the cardiovascular risk factors in perimenopausal.
Oh.
So perimenopause is a very tumultuous time in someone's life. And, to have 1 billion people going through that at once is going to be quite challenging.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit more about this French Maritime pine bark. How is it unique? What is it about it that's different from other maybe pine barks on the market? What's special about this one?
That's a good question, because there are others on the market. Because it comes from a very special forest, sustainable forest in the southwest part of France. And in Europe, I don't know whether we do it so much here in the United States, but in Europe, different species of trees and all get their benefits from where they are grown, right? So this is so it gets it from the soil, the air, the fog that comes in over the trees, all sorts of things. And Pycnogenol, this French Maritime pine tree bark extract has been studied or used for medicinal purposes since like the 1600s that we know of. Like it used to use the needle.
I didn't know that.
Had scurvy. They used to use the pine. They used to make a tea out of needles in the 1600s to prevent scurvy. So there's always been interest in this particular tree. Like for instance, mistletoe. I don't know if you guys are familiar with mistletoe. Mistletoe's it's a tree, but each mistletoe tree from different regions and different species of that tree carry different medicinal properties. So I think this goes, so that area of France with those trees and that forest is very, very particular. We've known about it for centuries.
I love that. I love that it can be that specific, right? That it's this tree in this soil from this place. That's
and that makes sense when you just think about the antioxidant profile that you find. Those antioxidants or those biochemicals are created in that plant, that herb, that flower. They're for survival.
Yeah.
They're protecting that plant, and so of course it makes sense. The environment would play a role on
it dictates what it needs,
needs, and I guess in that particular area, it's making a lot of very beneficial
compounds. Good for us too.
Yes.
Yeah. So as a clinician, Dr. Pescatore, so we talked about the hair loss and menopausal, perimenopausal stuff. What other things are you using Pycnogenol for in your own practice? Is it a common suggestion for you to your patients?
Yeah, so the patient I saw right before I jumped on this podcast, I recommended Pycnogenol to. And I did that for circulation in her gums. So I use it for a lot of microcirculation, which is very important. I basically give it to everybody. I call it one of my desert island supplements. If I was stuck on a desert island somewhere, I'd want Pycnogenol with me. But it's been studied in ADD, it's been studied in allergies, it's been studied in colds and flus. It's been studied in so many different things that, because it's an antioxidant, because Pycnogenol works on the endothelial nitric oxide, because it's an anti-inflammatory. There's so many benefits. There's so many ways you could use it clinically. So I think it's really important that, we recognize, and I don't want to come across sounding that, like a snake oil salesman. It's a panacea for everything. But when you look at collagen and elastin, antioxidants, when you look at anti-inflammatories, you're hitting some pretty big numbers there. I mean, you're
big categories. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well,
If I'm ever on an island, I'll take some Pycnogenol, but I also want some cheese.
Oh my goodness.
Blocks of cheese.
He loves cheese.
I love cheese.
Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Mike thinks that I take everything. And this is one.
I think you take everything?
He thinks that I take everything, but this is the top of my list. I will not. And that's why I was excited when I saw the research with the hair, because I take it. And I take it every day, but I take a little bit more right before I fly. So this is my secret to help with circulation when I go on the plane. So it is one where I can't get on the plane without it. I usually take it a couple of hours before my flight.
And you can't do without the other 50 supplements.
Yes, but it is my secret weapon for flying.
But Dr. Mike, it does have Pycnogenol as a study about reducing blood clot, for reducing what do they call it? Not economy class syndrome. I forget what they called it in the paper, but there is a study about that. That it can also help maybe reset your time clock if you're traveling, across various time zones. So flying is very, very important.
That's great. How can our listeners learn a little bit more about you, about Pycnogenol, this particular extract of Pycnogenol?
Mm-hmm.
Where can we send them?
Well, it's easy, just pycnogenol.com. That's for that, and they can find, and they have Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff. And for me, it's just drpescatore.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Pescatore, for joining us today. As just like before, it was a fascinating interview. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
You're listening to Live Foreverish. Don't forget, you go to liveforeverish.com. And when you're there, you can download not just this episode. Hopefully, you're listening to this episode now. So when you go to liveforeverish.com, there's more episodes. Download, like, share, comment, and subscribe. The 1-2 punch. Give us your email. Join the family. Get newsletters. Number 2, subscribe to the actual podcast. That's liveforeverish.com. I'm Dr. Mike. Thanks for listening.